Page 6 says use the diagram 1.2 and we're looking for the value of x. We're given the two sides, 10 and 5, 10 being the hypotenuse, 5 being one of the two legs. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Where a can be x squared, b can be 5 squared, and c can be 10 squared. X squared plus 25 equals 100. Subtract 25 from both sides. You're left with x squared equals 75. Take the square root of both sides. You get x equals, we'll find a perfect square inside of 25, or 75, which is 25 and 3. So we're left with 5 rad 3. Now you'll notice that the long leg is 5 rad 3 and that the short leg is 5 and the hypotenuse is 10. This should tip you off about this triangle. And again, we can't make it a fact only because we could have made a mistake to come up with that value. But it looks like this triangle is going to be a 30, 60, 90. So when it asks me to find angle B, I just want to keep that in mind and see if my work checks with that. So finding the tangent of angle B, tangent is going to be the opposite over the adjacent. And in this case, the opposite of B is going to be 5. And the adjacent, which is x, which we just found, is 5 rad 3. So we would simplify this. These cancel. You're left with 1 over rad 3. We have to rationalize this. Rationalize it. It doesn't ask for the angle, sorry. So even though it's a 30, 60, 90, it doesn't ask for the measure of the angle, it asks for the tangent. So we would end up with rad 3 over rad 9, which reduces to rad 3 over 3. So when it asks specifically for the tangent, meaning a ratio value, we're going to get rad 3 over 3. Page 7. Page 7 says find the value, almost done, 2 more pages. Page 7 says the value of V. V is one of the sides. We're given an angle and a side. So we'll need to use those in order to find the value of V. 40 is the hypotenuse, and V is going to be the adjacent to angle 24. So what uses the hypotenuse and adjacent? The cosine. So the cosine of 24 degrees equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the cosine is 0.9135. The adjacent is the variable V. The hypotenuse is 40. Isolate the variable. Let's get rid of the 40 in the denominator by multiplying by its reciprocal, which is 40 in the numerator. 40 times 0.9135 gives us 36.54 equals V, and it asks us to round to the nearest tenth, so 36.5 is the length of V. Now, I saw a number of people try to start with the Pythagorean theorem in order to solve for W. The problem with this is a rounded value. And then when we take a rounded value and then we round it again in our solution, this answer, 36.5, is not that accurate. It's actually, it's got a lot of percentage of error in it. So it's best to continue to use the same method we used in A to find the value of V in order to find the value of W. This time W, we don't want the adjacent of 24, we want the opposite. And what uses the opposite in the hypotenuse? The sine. So the sine of 24 degrees should equal the opposite over the hypotenuse. Sine of 24 is 0.4067. The opposite is the variable w, and the hypotenuse is still 40. And in order to isolate it, multiply both sides by 40. 40 times 0.4067 leaves us with 16.268 equals w, round to the nearest tenth. This time we're going to round up to 16.3 equals w. And the last page, page 8, asks us to find the measure of angle x. We're given all three sides, which helps us, 13, 12, and 5, so we want to find this angle. So we have the opposite, we have the hypotenuse, and we have the adjacent. So technically we could use sine, cosine, or tangent. It doesn't matter which one we choose. I'm going to use a number that's going to do somewhat well. We have 5 and 12, which are nice, clean numbers. And so I'm going to use the tangent, which is tangent of angle x is going to equal the opposite over the adjacent. So the tangent of angle x equals the opposite is 12 over 5, which gives me 2.4. So on my chart, I'm going to look for tangent of 2.4. Tangent of 2.4 is actually 67. We have these two values here, but I like 2.4. 67 is closer than 68. So the value of angle x equals 67 degrees. And again, the reason why we wouldn't add up the angles and subtract it from 180 is because what if we made a mistake in problem A? We would never be able to get B correct under any circumstances. So we want to, again, we want to just use the same method that we used in example A, which is look at the perspective of angle Z. Angle Z, so 12 is the adjacent, 5 is the opposite, and 13 is the hypotenuse. And again, you can use the adjacent and opposite, which is tangent again, and if you find the tangent of angle Z, it's going to equal the opposite, which is 5 over 12, which reduces to 0.416 repeating. So if we look at our chart here, in our tangent column, we would look for 4.16 repeating. So it's between these two, 4.16 repeating. So it's either 22 or 23. So if we look at here, we have our choice of 22 or 23. Well, we know that x equals 67, so it can't be 22 because that would only add up to 179 degrees. So it must be 23 degrees. We have to choose. So angle Z is going to equal 23 degrees. Thanks very much. If you have any questions, come see me. If you have any